pushback, and Mike is in the green room. We can bring Mike up whenever, get him in the conversation as well. I brought it up with running back. To me, it's no surprise. I mean, they don't spend money at running back, and they don't spend money at linebacker, and they're not good at running back, and they're not good at linebacker. I think it's pretty simple. It's as simple as that. I'm a little surprised. I think people have kind of figured it out at linebacker. There's still great hope that Nakobe Dean is going to be a impact player, but other than him, but running back is a little bit different, Mike. And, you know, a lot of people think they have a bunch of good running backs. I don't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah. You said that yesterday on our show, and I thought that was interesting. I feel like for me, I've said this many times, Swift to me, the Lions, they don't look like a different team without him. They didn't use him at all last year. I feel like Eagle fans saw what he did against them. Yeah. He had 144 yards rushing. And I don't know that he had 144 yards combined the rest of the season. I mean, yeah, he had a couple games where he had like 50. I think he had 78 yards.
He was over 600.
I think 78 yards was his next highest rushing total. And that wasn't until December. He was essentially – now, he got hurt last year, but he had a big game. This is a classic case of guy had a big game against us, therefore he must be good. Why aren't we playing him? And I think that's what you have here. I think the Lions looked at a guy and said, don't need him. Not a guy we have to have on this team. And their offense looked fine without him the other night. I seem to agree with what you said on my show. I think just hearing it kind of was like, that's an interesting, because no one's really said it in that way, is they're just not that talented at running back. I think Gainwell's a guy that when he came into the league, he was he played receiver almost a lot at Memphis, and he doesn't catch the ball here at all, really. They don't throw him the ball. So the role that he had at Memphis, he doesn't really play here. And he's, for a smaller guy, he's not an explosive guy. It's not like he's this quick, fast guy that just blasts through the hole. When Miles got going, he had some second-range speed that was tough. I don't look at Gainwell and say, man, this guy's just got game-breaking speed. And then, of course, Penny, who we haven't really seen, I think when he plays, if he got an opportunity, he might be the guy that opens your eyes. But they didn't even dress him. So I do think the running back conversation is valid.
Here's where I'm kind of with John and against John. I'm with him in that, do they have a star running back on this roster? The answer to me is no. I don't think any of the players that they have in the running back room are stars. Every once in a while in his career, Penny has thrown up a star-like game. They're too few and far between for me to call him a star. If you don't have a star and you've got comparable backs, that they're all kind of similar, why would you feel the need to just pick one out and make him the heavy go-to guy in game one for the season? That I do believe is a legit question. I think that any Eagle fan that says, wait a minute, why is Kenny Gainwell getting that higher percentage of the touches in week number one? I think that's legit. It doesn't have to be because you need to give it to Swift, because you need to give it to Penny. No, I'm looking at it as we've got four guys, and yeah, they decided they were only going to dress three, but they're all have similar levels of competency to me. Why wouldn't you use them all rather than just feel the need to have to pick out one when you think that the answer is one isn't going to be quite good enough?
Yeah, that's well put, Jody. I don't know that. Now, John, you said a couple of weeks ago that Gainwell was the guy and it was probably not close. So is that because he outperformed everybody, or is it more the coaches trust him more, he's executed the offense better, and that's why now Sirianni did say after the game, hey, we have DeAndre Swift, he can't get 2 touches. That just can't happen. I don't even know, did he get 2? He had 2 targets.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, 2 touches, I think.
Right. So this could be the classic, last year, I think after week 1, well, how come Devonta didn't get any passes thrown to him?
They got to worry about Dallas more than the running backs, but because
But
he
I
was
do.
the Devontae, yeah.
You do, and I think I asked you this yesterday, John, which is, Sanders had 1,296 yards rushing last year. Do you not have that guy? And if you don't have that guy, what does this offense look like?
Well, they definitely don't have that guy. To go back, yeah, from the coaching perspective, and why I said so early it was going to be Gainwell, it's because he was in every situation, high leverage situation, as they call them. They didn't even give the other guys a chance. So maybe that's closed-mindedness on the coaching staff, but they certainly believe the coaching staff that Kenny's their best running back. Now, if he can't play on Thursday against a bad defense, maybe Swift has a good game, maybe Penny has a good game, and maybe there opens their eyes up a little bit and they get the other guys more involved. I could see that happening. But then I would say buyer beware, because again, New England good on defense, Minnesota bad on defense. So, maybe if Kenny was healthy, he'd be looking better as well. So it's difficult, but the coaching staff definitely trusts Kenny more than the other two. But they've talked about a committee and getting other people involved, and we'll see if they can do it. If there's any week they can do it, this should be the start, because this is a bottom, probably 5 defense in the NFL from a talent perspective. So you got to get some things done offensively after a bad start in week 1.
Now, they did throw the ball to the backs more this week, right? I mean, even Swift, who wasn't even on the field, had 2 targets. Scott actually caught a pass. It was insignificant, but they did throw the ball to the running backs out of the backfield a little bit more, I guess, than they did all of last year.
Let me echo something that John just said, Mike. You got to believe this is going to be the case. Dallas Goedert, no targets through 3.5. When did the pass come that they threw the guy?
I didn't see it because I bet 54.5 on the over on the yardage there, and I didn't see him get one throw.
It was big over. I think it was the 4th quarter.
Yeah, I was 4th.
They did point it out on the game. Romo, who was terrible in the game, by the way, he did actually. The producers must have shown him, hey, Goddard's open and they're missing him. And there was multiple times where they showed, and Romo did say, hey, this might have been where he predetermined where he was going to. He threw that ball into the end zone to Smith, and Goddard just, who was the guy hit the home run last night, was just flapping his wings in the middle of the field, throw me the ball here, and they couldn't get it. And so, I mean, he was open, and
Yeah, well, we haven't talked. Let me throw this at you, both of you guys. Jody, we haven't talked about Jalen Hurts at all this offseason because, he's been, and rightfully so, coming off the season he had, coming off the Super Bowl he had. And we all know the good of Jalen Hurts as a football player, but he wasn't good in week 1. Let's be honest. And a lot of it is, I think, I was talking about it with Kirk Cousins, with Jody, in the nighttime and the prime time. When quarterbacks are hurried, or even if they feel hurried, sometimes it's seeing ghost, as coaches call it. They don't, progress naturally. And I didn't see that progression that Jalen Hurts was so good at last season. I do think he was more of a one-read quarterback going back to his early days. Now, is that because just a good defensive effort against a good defensive coach? Was something to keep an eye on this week, because he wasn't good in that aspect.
That wasn't what happened on Sunday. I haven't gone back and charted every play, but how many times did I think, Jalen had to get the ball out because the guy was milliseconds from hitting him? Not too many. He had clean throws. He had clean bad throws, or clean trying to force it into a covered guy throws. But they weren't hurried throws that he just had to get rid of it because otherwise he's going down. That's not the way I saw the game on Sunday.
But that's what I mean. And that's why I brought up the seeing ghost aspect. It's not even necessarily there. But if you feel it's coming because it's Matt Judon or Uche or earlier in the game, and you're hurried and you feel hurried, even if it's not there, you're not going through your progressions like you typically do, that turns into a bad football
Which
game.
I will, and Mike will let you jump in here in a second. Kudos to Nick Sirianni for saying, maybe I need to rethink my preseason stuff, because I think that's part of it. No one rushed Jalen this year. Joint practices, guess what? They call out sack. They don't actually hit the quarterback. You just call out sack. So the last time someone was coming at Jalen Hurts with evil intentions was the Super Bowl. He hadn't faced a true rush in 9 months. And yeah, maybe he was a little jittery. Maybe he was looking to get the ball out. When you haven't done something in a while, your natural reactions might slow a little bit. Well, it should be better for it this week, because the Patriots did at least get their hands on him a little bit.
I hated that Sirianni said that about the preseason. It's like
hated it. Why?
You don't need to pander to the questions every time. You played nobody in the preseason a year ago. Your answer should have been, we went to the Super Bowl. The Rams played nobody in the preseason and won the Super Bowl. No, I don't think that's my answer if I'm him. Guys, I don't think we need to play guys that now listen, you could say it would be helpful, but also say he didn't play the game that the expectations have gotten to. He's now got the game speed, and we got out of there with a victory.
Yeah, I think,
the risk of putting him out there is just not worth it. I mean, if he gets hurt in that preseason game, then we're all going to say, why was he out there? Because I think he played a series in the preseason last year, one series in August, month
it was
sitting.
A good series, too. They scored 8.
They scored.
I think 8 plays.
A month sitting was, in one series, that was enough to get him prepared for the speed of the game. That's preposterous. Yeah. I mean, come on, Sirianni.
Well,
you
don't
have
the
to pander to say, yes, I wish we can rethink this. I'm going to put that in my notes. Come on, man. What are these, Ray Dininger notes? Rip the page off and just don't say that anymore. They don't need to be out there in the preseason because they're not getting anything out of it playing one series in all. Now, if you're going to tell me he's going to play a half the week before the season starts, that's a different story. I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, well, he is the pander in chief, Mike, so he's got to play up to his brand. But yeah, I
like Sirianni. I'm just saying. And by the way, I thought the not punt that ball was.
Oh, that was bad. That was terrible. And his dad yelled at him, I'm sure. I mean, that he gave New England an opportunity to win the game. I did not think, even though it was a close game, I never got the feeling, hey, the Pats might win this game. I never got that feeling right up until he went for that 4th down and turned it over. I think it was at the 44-yard
line. Yeah, 157 left in the game.
And he's lucky that was a rookie receiver who couldn't drag his foot, because then it's 1st and goal at the 8 or whatever it was. And you're in deep, you know what, at that point, because somebody's got to make a play, and it might be Henry, and it might be Bourne. At that point, it's a crapshoot. I thought it was a really bad decision because of the way the game had unfolded. The offense had not played well. Typically, he mentioned the word conviction. He has conviction in his offense. Typically, yeah, I'm with you. Not after watching that game, but they didn't have it. You got to have a feel. That's where you have to have a feel and say, I know we're usually really good at this, but we're not playing well today offensively. Let's get out of here.
That's exactly where I was going, John. He reverted to the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles, making that decision on. Well, they've now played almost an entire game. You've played 55 minutes of a 60-minute game, and Jalen will make a play. Guess what? Jalen didn't make a play. Jalen forced the ball in. It really had no chance to be completed, the play that he decided to go to. Yeah, every once in a while, you got to coach in the moment. And every once in a while, you got to give a response in the moment like, yeah, maybe we need to rethink our preseason activities so we can be better week 1. And I can just go, I'll go for it on 4th down because I got faith Jalen's going to get it done, and then he gets it done. I had no problems with Sirianni's response to that question. You and I are complete disagreement on that one, Mike Gill.
Well, if he's
Play him into the third quarter, maybe.
If he's genuine, okay? If next year in August, if I'm still invited back and he plays Jalen Hurts in a third preseason game in August into the third quarter, okay, then he took notes and said, I need to get Jalen more playing time before the season starts. Therefore, don't ask me, why did I play my starters for 3 quarters in a preseason game? After you ask me, do I need to play my starters in a preseason game maybe because they didn't look? No. The answer will be no.
I think you go into an extreme. Give me any one team that played their starters into the third quarter in the NFL this preseason. The answer is none. No one did. So why do you go to the third? Got to play into the third quarter.
Somebody
would actually be playing players in the
sure.
preseason. No one in the NFL does. So why would you ask Sirianni to do something
Fine,
no one else in the NFL does?
Fine, a half.
What team played a half? What team had a guy who's their starting quarterback, their starting offensive line, and their starting receiver?
I'm sure somebody did.
I think
I don't think so. Please inform me if either one of you guys know.
Well, I'll look it up. I don't pay any attention to preseason football.
Either maybe a half or
Andy plays a lot.
Some players played in all 3 games, maybe.
That was Andy Reid. Patrick Mahomes started all 3 games.
Correct. So if he does that next year, where Hurts plays a series in the first game, 2 in the second game, and a half in the third game, okay, then he took notes and learned from it and said, I feel like Hurts needs more time to get ready because these joint
and they're not going to. And by the way, they're not going to. At that point, we had this discussion yesterday. We probably talked about this too much, but at that point, if he really has that thought, Howie will shut him down and say, you know what, we're not going to do that. Just stop it.
Yeah, I mean, that's my point is, as much as like it makes sense, he should be, everybody should play more to get ready.
Here's the thing. Penn State played West Virginia last week. So we had you on the show. We're giving you the business style points. There are no style points in the NFL. It doesn't matter. They got out of the game with a victory. They're 1-0. Jody can attest to this. I said, I think these first two games are a great test for this reason. The Eagles are going to get a lot of curveballs from defensive coordinators because of how well they played offensively last year. A lot of different looks, a lot of different things. And the first 2 are probably the best 2, maybe the first 3, because I'll add Todd Bowles to that mix. Maybe the best 3 they see all year. With
they are
Belichick.
They are going to play that San Francisco team in the middle of the year.
But I'm just talking about coordinators and scheming. Now, they don't have talent.
Yeah, I'm more scared about talented players.
Well, so am I. San Francisco. But scheming, what I'm saying is
what they're going to throw at you.
What I said before, it helps you because they have less talent than San Francisco. But you see the great scheming, and it's almost like a glorified practice where you get to see all these wacky looks and you're more prepared for it. That's my theory there. When you get to see the 3 great defensive minds early with a varying level. New England, I think, has a pretty good defense. Minnesota does, and Tampa Bay does. Varying levels. But yeah, I'm with you. It's always personnel first. And the teams with the best players win offensively and defensively. But I think it helps when you see unique schemes and good coaching.
Dan Quinn, by the way, that defense is pretty
Dan's good too.
Yeah. That said, Jody, I do agree with what you were saying about Hurts. In the past game, I thought he threw the ball fine. I mean, did he miss guys? Sure, you always miss guys. I mean, in terms of not seeing that they were open. I just felt he was uneven all day. Decisions, he felt like at no point during this offseason did I say, this guy just got paid and his game is going to look different because of it. And then on Sunday, I was like, this guy doesn't look the same. There's a third down where in the past, he would just barrel through a guy and he went right down like a ton of bricks. And I said, he just seems tentative to finish runs. He just feels like his decisions when he had him. Now, he was getting pressured, and I think he did the old Tom Brady. He just said, I'm not taking this hit. I'm just dropping. You got me. I'm sacked. There were just times in the game where he just felt, and at no point did I think I was going to think, man, this guy got paid a lot of money and doesn't want to take a hit. But hopefully it's only for 1 week. And maybe it has to do with the speed.
No, I don't think it's that. He got paid a lot of money and doesn't want to take a hit. But
did you not think he looked tentative running the ball at times?
Oh, yeah, he definitely did.
Okay.
But here's how I took it. And I'll, want to get both your thoughts on this. That's seeping in. Everybody's all, Jalen's got to scale down on the running. Jalen's got to do this. It's bombarded at him constantly. And he's a guy that ignores most of the outside noise. I don't think from inside the building, but outside the building, constantly he's got to protect himself better. He's been hurt both years. He got hurt in the pocket. He got hurt outside the pocket. You can't play like this. That stuff's got to seep in at some point. Is he listening to that too much?
No, I'll use the overused phrase, rat poison. He doesn't get rat poison. Rat poison doesn't affect him. He understands. He knows rat poison. He avoids rat poison.
He didn't look like himself running the football, and he's certainly not hurt. And as Mike pointed out, he certainly seemed more cautious. I'm open for reasons. Mike gave his.
I gave you mine. I'm with Coach Sirianni. Lack of work in the preseason, plain and simple.
Well, did he not have? I don't remember him having a performance like that the entire year last year. Not one. In fact, opening week, he came out with a bang. They scored 38 points in the game. All off of his August 8th series against the Jets. That's why
the August 8th series he had against the Jets.
Well, I think it's more that Detroit was like 32nd in the NFL in defense. I think that helped. And they faced a good defense against New England. So, yeah, context matters in that, the players were better in New England, defensively, at least. Obviously, Detroit would have the better offense, and they were able to come back and nearly won that game. But,
I think
it's easier to play against bad defenses.
I think this is something to last year. They beat the Lions, and it was like, you beat the Lions. Well, I remember saying, look, 10 weeks from now, we might say that win is a lot more impressive than it felt like in week one. That turns out to be the case. I think this is a similar situation. The Bills, Jets, and Dolphins were getting all of the conversation in the AFC East. New England was getting none. Nobody is picking the Patriots to do anything. But I think 10 weeks from now, we might look back and say, you know what? To get a win in Foxborough against that team defensively, that was a pretty good win. And it's just our expectations are they're the Patriots. No one's talking about them. You've got to blow them away. Well, that team might be better than the pundits are giving them credit for.
And what we'll find out about New England over time, I think, is the key to that game. The reason it was close was the Eagles couldn't finish drives. They were relying on their field goal kicker to come out and put up 3 spots, and thank God they had him, because otherwise the game could have been lost and we'd be having a bigger expanded what the hell is wrong? How can you expect the Eagles to play special teams with the guys or the lack thereof they have on special? Jake Elliott kind of makes it all a little bit easier to swallow because he just boots field goals every time he goes out there. That to me was an issue. That's why that team was in the Super Bowl last year is they converted drives into 7, not 3, and they didn't do it week 1. Is it because of New England's defense or because of the Eagle offense is still coming together under a new coordinator that I still have no answers for? Either one of you guys take anything out of what the offensive coordinator had to say yesterday as to why they had a less than stellar week 1 offensive performance?
I liked his accountability. He said we were sloppy as opposed to just giving me platitudes. He admitted they were sloppy and essentially didn't play well. I like that. But as far as play calling and things like that, me, I mean, I don't know what they're trying to accomplish. So do I hate the bubble screen? Yes. I hated it when Shane was here. I hate it more now because I've seen it more. I wish they would put that. The one area of this offense I don't think that was good last season was hot reads when you get pressure. They didn't use them. Their hot read was the bubble screen. Oh, we're going to get pressure. Let's throw it out. They have great receivers who can beat people at the line of scrimmage and a great tight end. Hot reads, get to them. Where are they? When are they coming, Mike Gill?
Good question. And you, when you're there, you weren't at the game, right?
No.
Okay. I wasn't acting in a joking manner. I was just double checking. No.
My flight got canceled.
You can see from, the press box a lot better the routes that are being run and whether these hot red reads are somebody's running that route. Early in the game it was funny. It was Gainwell, and then the first pass was to Quez Watkins, and you're thinking, what the hell's going on here, man? I got Devonta Smith, I got A.J. Brown, I got Dallas Goedert, and I'm getting a steady diet of Gainwell and Watkins to start this game off here. So, I thought that, you asked last week, Jody, who are we going to learn more about, Johnson or Desai? And I said Brian Johnson would be the guy. I don't know how you phrased the question, and I said because he's going up against Bill Belichick. He's calling plays against maybe the best defensive mastermind that this game has ever had. So he's going to be up against trying to figure out what New England, who's got a good defense. And quite frankly, I'm not sure that we gave credit going into the game for how good New England's defense is, because when you are previewing week one, you have nothing. You're really talking more about your team's 53 and how they kind of match. You're not talking about what components of that defense brings because you haven't seen it. And I think now, if you were playing New England in week 3, after 2 weeks, you might say, well, they got the rookie Gonzalez, and he's a physical corner, and White in the middle, and Judon's a handful, and they really cover, and they show different things. You might have a better. So I think Brian Johnson went into that game, and that was why I said I thought he'll be interesting. Not knowing what his team was going to get thrown at him. And we know, we tend to say Belichick wants to take out somebody. Well, which was the guy he picked? Was it Goddard? I was told that, they had Goddard doubled a lot in the game. So maybe they said, you're not throwing the ball to Goddard today. Beat us elsewhere.
He was open a couple times.
He was open, yes. But I also was disappointed, Jody. I thought the offensive line in both the run game and the pass game was not as crisp. Gainwell had, 14 carries for 54 yards. Does that suggest that he's the problem, or did the offensive line not have, they
didn't play well either.
Right. We go into games saying that offensive line is always the check mark and always the difference maker, is that at any point, and you're up 16-0, this team is built to say, offensive line, take us to the finish line. And they weren't able to do that.
And read that into Sirianni's stance. And I don't think enough people have either considered this or added it in. When he said, we may need to rethink our preparation and how we handle the preseason in playing the starters, everyone immediately goes to Jalen. It's all about Jalen. It's the quarterback. It's the quarterback. It's the quarterback. Never took a snap. Never played. Well, Jalen's going to play that. Well, you're not going to put Jalen out there with the backups. So it's going to be Jalen with the starting offensive line. A whole bunch of those guys on the offensive line didn't play a snap in the preseason either. We just think of the quarterback. How much did Smitty and A.J. Brown play in the preseason? Didn't. It's not just the quarterback. It's the entire starting offense that basically got John's favorite word, and I love that he uses it, deference. Oh, you get deference. That means you don't have to play. You're a star. That means you're treated different than everybody else. Well, maybe they're going to change that next year. And if Nick does, more power to him, because here's one thing that John and I always agree on. Given the chance, Nick would practice more than the Eagles do. We don't know that. Nick will never admit to that, never look John McMullen in the eye, on or off the record, go, I would absolutely practice more. But he believes it. I believe it. I think
I think all coaches would. I 1,000% agree with that. That came from the Players Association that they wanted to practice less.
At Mike Gill Show, make sure you follow Mike on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. The Sports Bash 97.3, South Jersey, 2 to 6 drive time every day. I'll be on later today at 3 o'clock, I believe. Last one from me. You mentioned an interesting point to me because, maybe we'll look at this win 2 months down the road and say, man, New England's pretty good. That's a better win than it looks right off the bat. But I got to tell you, Mike, I just came off a season where I covered this team every day going to the Super Bowl, and they didn't beat anybody, according to their own fan base. Is there any good wins in this league? Because everybody, when is there a good win? This is the NFL. I mentioned it. Everybody's got good players. I go back, there are no style points. This isn't about impressing some committee somewhere that's going to jump you over TCU or Baylor on a specific year. You got wins and losses. You got clearly defined tiebreakers. You get the hell out of these games with wins.
Yeah.
That's the accomplishment.
I have no issue with an ugly win. If I win 3-0 every week and I'm 17-0 and I make it to the playoffs 3-0 every week, I got no issue with that. So yes, last year, I remember having the conversation all year. The Eagles haven't beat anybody. They haven't beat anybody. This is generally from the local Dallas fans who have misguided themselves and located themselves in our area. But, this whole notion that they didn't beat anybody, I said there was nobody to beat. There was no teams last year. There's no elite teams in the NFL that if you had beaten that team, you would have gotten more credit. Like, oh, okay, I'm impressed by that. This year might be a little different. The Jets took a little bit of a hit, but their defense is still out.
A little bit of a hit. Now the Eagles should beat the Jets. Now the Jets.
But their defense is still outstanding. Their defense is a Super Bowl level defense with a quarterback who is completely.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't even know the word to use for Wilson because I don't know if it's fair to judge him now. We don't know, but so far in his career, he has been so inept that their defense is so good and he's still so bad that he can't even get them to the playoffs with that defense. That's how bad he is.
A quick funny aside. Last night, I actually had a caller on WIP tell me, and Wilson made that great pass to Wilson in the end zone. It was a terrible pass. He threw it off the wrong shoulder.
Yeah,
Wilson had to tap it to himself just to be able to make an unbelievably athletic solo grab. But he made a great – no, he didn't.
That's a box score.
That's a box I don't care what he looks like in practice with his arm talent. He has been awful.
Awful. Now, that said – maybe he learned from being in camp and not having to be the guy and getting no attention and just got a chance to slow everything down.
3 quarters to show us that on Monday. Mikey, show it to you. Did you see improvement?
No, I'm just saying.
Learning under the genius that is Aaron Rodgers, has any of it by osmosis been passed to Zach Wilson? Because I didn't see it in 3 plus quarters the other night.
But the Eagles have teams on their schedule this year that if they beat those teams, I think people will say, okay, I like the Dolphins. I think that with Tua, when Tua plays, that team is legit Super Bowl contender. They're very good. I'm not big on the Bills this year. I think their window is kind of closing, but I still think they're a playoff team. You've got Kansas City, obviously, San Francisco. So there are teams. The AFC is interesting. I mean, the Bengals, Ravens, and I think that Browns team is better. The Eagles don't play those teams, but there are more teams this year that I think entering the season have a little bit of a higher profile. So I think there are more higher end teams. Maybe last year was a lot of but I think by the midway through the season, we're going to be talking about there's a handful of good teams and a lot of mediocre teams. The league is built for everybody to be 9-8, 10-7, and that there's a handful of teams that get to 12, and that's what the league has become.
And if the Eagles aren't one of those handful of teams that get to 12, there's going to be a lot of disappointed people here.
I agree.
Last thing we got before we let you go, show us the T-shirt. What are you rocking today?
Well, I'm rocking this is from my buddy's bar down the shore that people will know, Robert's Place, the Polar Bear Plunge, which happens every year. You jump in the ocean on New Year's Day. I went with a long sleeve today because it's a little chilly inside my house. Really? It's a little dreary outside.
Got the AC cranked, huh?
It is.
Well, it's a little,
it is true. Did you take the polar bear plunge?
I went. I said, I'm a little cold today, so I had to go find a long sleeve, and I don't have a collegiate. I'm not a big long sleeve wearer. The bigger guys, we like the arms out there so we can move around, but. This was everybody watching here has been down the
the
shore to Robert's place and had a wing, man.
Did you take the plunge? That's what I want to know.
I've been to the beach. I will not jump in the water on New Year's Day.
That's
You
why
got
I
a
figured.
shirt without taking the plunge.
That's what I figured.
That's just
Well, I'll tell you, Jody, it has gotten so big. They close Atlantic Avenue off on both sides. You can't drive between Essex and Douglas because it's one big party on New Year's Day out there.
Good on him. But
That would just piss me off because I'd be going somewhere and I'd be
and at that time of the year, if you're down the shore, Atlantic Avenue in Margate, all the traffic lights are blinking. They have no red lights anymore because there's not enough traffic, so people just drive right through. But you get there, you got to go around.
All right.
It's a nice shirt. Thanks for wearing it. You shouldn't have it because if you don't go in the ocean,
you got to take the plunge, man. That's
no plunge, no shirt.
Yeah,
you must know. You must know somebody. You got pulled, Gill. We'll give you that much. All right, Mike. We'll talk to you again next week. Thanks, bud.
All right, guys. Enjoyed it.
Mike Gill from the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN Radio down the shore. All right, Johnny Mac, Jody Mac coming back. Moshe in less than 20 minutes. Jeff Mosher from InsideTheBirds.com going to join us. More of McMullen and McDonald next here on Birds 365.